welcome back. We've come outside yet again. I don't think George is all that pleased because he's wearing a very posh hat and he expected to be inside.
It's a bit windy, you know. It's blown away.
Yeah. Look, well, you've written your autobiography and you've also released, what is this?
My new album.
Your new album, and you've got a video, and we're going to see all that. Yeah. But the thing that strikes everybody about your autobiography is how incredibly frank it is.
Yeah.
I mean, why did you decide to kind of tell the lot?
Well, so many pop star books, so many celebrity books are full of lies. You know, they're kind of done to make a nicer picture of the person. Yeah. And I was always seen as this really nice person, and I wanted to kind of redress the balance.
You wanted to be horrible for a bit.
Well, you know, it's just that I got sick of being described as everyone's granny's favourite pop star, you know, because there was a lot more going on that people didn't know about.
Yeah. I mean,
so
you were not the boy. I think you addressed this one. You were not the boy who preferred a cup of tea to sex. I mean, you know, that was one of the great misnomers.
I've always maintained that tea is much more reliable than you know, than sex and men in general. But you know, I like tea, but I also like sex.
So we haven't, as usual, we've not had a chance to read the book. We only get them the night before.
I've read some of it.
Well, you've read some of it. What's the nastiest bit in the book then, do you think?
Well, it isn't a nasty book.
No. What I meant was, if I wanted to sort of just misquote or take it out of context, where would I look to find the worst anecdote that I could use to, you know, slur your character?
I don't know, there's a good story about Marilyn and Diana Ross in the book, which is quite a good favourite. And yeah, it's not really a nasty book. I mean, obviously there are certain people who've been mentioned in the book who aren't happy about it.
Yeah.
Like John and a few other people, but
John Moss.
Yeah, John Moss. But I didn't set out to write a bitchy, spiteful book. It was just a true story of what happened, you know. And if people were involved in my life, then they had to be mentioned.
Well, here's a lie.
I've had a few threats, but nothing's come of it yet.
I just opened it at random, and right in the middle of the page, typical Marilyn, hogging everything you fancied. What about that? When you are going to write a warts and all autobiography, which is to some extent a biography of other people that have been alongside you all those years, do you get a lot of legal advice? I mean, do you have to sit down with the lawyers and go through it?
Yeah, a lot of stuff had to be taken out. Like, there was stuff about journalists, certain Fleet Street journalists, which I couldn't print. Unfortunately,
but they never sued, did they? I thought it was their code. I mean,
oh, you'd be surprised if they thought there was a few pennies in it, they'd sue. And you know, there's a few things that obviously you can't say about people. And we had fun with the lawyer. I mean, we sat down for a couple of days and went through it all, and we had quite a lot of sort of laughter going on, but we had to take certain things out. Definitely.
Well, if the basis of a libel, though, is that it's not true, and a defence of a libel is effectively that it is true, presumably what you were writing about journalists and what some of them had done to you was true.
Well, I think the main thing was that, you know, they were writing stuff about me while they were doing the very same things themselves, and unfortunately I couldn't mention that.
Because you couldn't prove it?
Which is a shame, yeah. If you can't prove it,
you mean some of them were gay?
No.
It's like the drugs.
Oh, the drugs. Ah, right.
I'm sure some of them are gay.
So some of them were doing drugs and writing hypocritically about you doing drugs.
I see. You know.
I mean, the strange thing about you is everyone's known you've been perfectly open about being gay for a very long time, but when you first started and you wore the long hair and all that kind of stuff, lots of people thought you were just being cute. They did. They didn't actually equate it with your sexuality at all.
We see in this country, you know, you can be Daniel LaRue, you can be Boy George on the Christmas tree, but if you ever start to be serious about your sexuality, people get uncomfortable. We don't like to talk about things in this country. No. We like it all shoved under the carpet, you know.
Yeah.
Larry Grayson, my grandparents were huge fans of his in the 70s.
Me too, I love Larry Grayson.
And me too, I thought he was wonderful. But the thing is, I knew that Larry Grayson was gay, but my grandparents didn't know he was gay, and if you suggested it to them, they wouldn't have known what you were talking about. They didn't see him in that way.
But it is typical of this country. It's like, you know, the argument about gays in the military. They just don't want to talk about it. It's like, let's not discuss it, because it makes people uncomfortable. I mean, the interesting thing about my book is that no one's picked up on any of the gay relationships in the book. If I was talking about sleeping with women, it would be front page news.
Yeah.
But no one has dealt with the gay stuff because it's too uncomfortable. They don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting.
But you say in your book, you also say that you believe everybody is the root core of everybody is bisexual.
I think everybody's got a bit of both in them, yeah, if they were really honest.
But you haven't, because you don't go out with women.
Of course I have. They just terrify me.
What women do?
A bit like spiders.
Wow.
You stamp on them in the corner, do you?
But there's this misconception that gays, you know, I mean, women's and gay men get on brilliantly because we don't really want anything from you. So we can have really intense, very deep and personal relationships with women, which other men can't have. I mean, all my best friends throughout my life have been female. You know, at school, they're the only people who talk to me.
But sexually, they're just...
There are certain things about women that sort of turn me on, but there are other things that don't.
Are they... No, well, without going into too much detail, are they ephemeral things that turn you on about women, or are they specifics? Are they specific physical attributes of a woman that turn you on?
No, it's not physical. I think really what it is that you get locked into a kind of certain way of living. You know, I mean, so much of my life is centred around being gay that you reach a point where you know, you're very comfortable with it. I mean, I've reached a stage in my life where I can actually acknowledge the fact that I do find women attractive, but that I choose to sleep with men.
Right.
I find men more attractive, but I don't deny the fact that I do find women attractive. I think that's fair enough to say, but I've made a choice.
Used to be politically incorrect. If you said that, you were making it too complicated for people to understand.
If you said that, people say, oh, you're sitting on the fence, you know, but I think that everyone is a bit of both. I just think the only thing that exists is sexuality, and everything else is just a word, and it doesn't mean anything really.
And you don't mind, I mean, defining yourself so completely as being gay. I mean, because you do, and most of the autobiography is about that side of your life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just... That's what I do.
That's just what you are.
Yeah, I am who I am. All that stuff.
Who was the Radio 1 DJ? I mean, you might know this, maybe you don't. I can't remember who said that when he was at school when you first hit, and you had all the jewellery on and all the rest of it. And he said he went to school the next day and said, "Did you see that fabulous girl with Culture Club last night? She's really great." And I said, "He's so cute."
I get a lot of people saying
around
that
the
to me. You know,
playground.
the first time I appeared on Top of the Pops, a lot of people say, "I thought you were a girl."
Yeah. Was that your intention, to confuse people?
I like confusing people.
Days.
I think it's good fun.
Yeah. You had a sort of a lonely time in your childhood, though, before you could come to terms with what you were and before your family could come to terms. And you say that now this book, you think actually quite seriously, it should be in school libraries.
Well, there aren't any points of references for young gay people. I mean, people are gay. I mean, I was brought up by straight people. My parents are straight, my brothers are straight. So the idea that, you know, you can become gay by mixing with gay people or knowing about it is ridiculous, because I didn't become straight by mixing with a straight family. No. You know, so it doesn't make any sense.
But you actually also say in the book, don't you? You said you'd always accepted that the fact that you were gay was something to do with some chemical, some genetic thing. And now you're not sure.
No, I used to think that, but now I think that everyone is kind of a bit confused emotionally and sexually, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, for me, the sort of men that get really uptight about homosexuals are the ones with the kind of deeper problems, because why should my sexuality be of any concern to anybody else? I mean, when I go and buy a loaf of bread or get in a taxi, it's not the first thing I talk about with somebody. No. It doesn't have to be an issue unless you make it an issue.
Yeah.
But is the source of gayness of any issue in itself? Gaiety. I mean, does it matter? Because, I mean, if you are gay, it doesn't really matter if it's environmental or chemical or genetic.
No,
does it? I mean,
it only matters because we live in a society that doesn't accommodate us.
Still?
You know, yeah, of course. I mean, if you're a child living in, you know, Liverpool or living in Scotland or living in the suburbs in London, you know, it's okay on the TV because it's showbiz.
Yeah.
You know, oh, they can do that because they're showbiz. You know, Danny LaRue, Larry Grayson, Boy George, yeah, well, they get paid to do that.
Yeah.
But when it's on your own doorstep, it's another thing altogether. When it's your own child, then of course it's a much bigger problem.
Yeah.
And I think growing up in the real world, see, we don't live in the real world. We live in a showbiz world, and we mix with, I hope, kind of enlightened people. So we don't really see what it's like in the suburbs to be a young gay kid.
Well, I remember we had a phone-in on the difficulties of leading a gay lifestyle in the normal, in the real world, as you say, not the showbiz world. And we had one call from a guy who was very happy to be gay, and he was completely out, and he talked articulately about it, but he did say that it was a cross to bear. He did actually say that if he had a choice, if he was able to press a button somewhere at the back of his head, he'd rather be straight, because it would just be an easier life. He would have less prejudice, he would have less difficulties.
I mean, I think that in some ways there are a lot of people like that. I've been very lucky because my family, you know, when I was 16, I came out. I mean, that's when they found out, and I talk about that in the book. And they were great. I mean, I thought my father was going to kill me. You know, I mean, I really did think that was it.
Your dad's a really macho.
My dad's, you know, he's your typical father. He's not particularly macho, you know, he's not like Superman, but he's a normal man, you know, and obviously he wasn't brought up, his generation weren't brought up to deal with those type of things.
Or wear eyeshadow.
Or wear eyeshadow. He's never worn eyeshadow as far as I know. But he was brilliant, I mean, really, you know, when he actually found out.
Immediately?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, at first they wanted to believe it was somebody else's fault, but after about 2 months, 3 months, they were fine about it, and they've been brilliantly supportive since I was a teenager.
You used to yell at them that it was their fault because they'd actually
I did,
made
yeah.
you.
When I got upset, I used to blame them. Yes, of course. Don't we all do that? You know, I mean, absolutely. I think now as I've got older, I realise how much I'm like my father, albeit a gay version, but I'm very much like my dad.
But are you happy now, settled and?
You look it.
It's a difficult question. Are you happy? I mean,
well, you know, are you happier?
Yes, I'm less of a drama queen. You know, in the old days, everything was a problem. I could make a riot in an empty house. I was very good at that, and I've reached a stage now where I enjoy my work, I enjoy my life. I've got a great life. I'm very lucky. I get paid to do something that's very natural, and I get paid silly money to do it. So I'm pretty happy, I would say.
You look it.
Well, you do. We must talk about your music. I've been talking about you all the time. You've got a new album out. Is this it?
Cheapness and Beauty, yes.
Cheapness and Beauty. And you've also got the new video, which we're going to see in a minute.
Ilador,
Ilador. That's actually written for somebody, isn't it?
My friend Stevie Hughes died about 3 years ago from AIDS, and he was a photographer, a makeup artist, and a brilliant, colourful character. And I wanted to write something to remember him, but also to celebrate both the sadness, but also the colour of Stevie. I mean, it's a universal song in that sense.
And to say goodbye, because he slipped into a coma, didn't he, before you had a chance to say that?
Yeah, I mean, even when Stevie was on his way out, he was extremely humorous and funny and just amazing, you know. I mean, I think that sometimes when people are going to die, they get very spiritual, and it's quite amazing. It makes you feel humble, the way people deal with things like that.
Right.
Well, shall we hear it?
Let's hear it. It's I've got to say we have to take a break after we hear this, but we will be taking your calls on women drivers. But here's George's new single, Illador. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.